So welcome to the Legacy of Your Life Wealth. This is a podcast produced by my firm, the LifeWealth Group. This is Hilgard Lamprecht. And I have the great privilege of doing life with some amazing men and women and families. And today I have a great privilege of interviewing my very, very best friend, Brian Buckley, who I've done life with a good 12, 13 years, I think, Brian. We've been doing life together.
Yep.
I think boarding a plane to fly to an island together is where we met each other. And it's been quite the ride, quite the experience.
Not the safest airplane either, but it was certainly something that we laughed about afterward, that's for sure.
We laughed a lot about. Brian, being in insurance, was looking at the wings and how old the plane was, and was really concerned about how much this guy paid for the plane.
The pilot said that he put $200,000 into the plane. I said, the plane is only worth $200,000 and we're flying over the ocean? I just didn't have a big comfort level with that.
Well, we arrived safely, thank God. And
Amen.
I think we're over to the Bahamas and we had a great time. So, hey, thanks for joining us. I've had a front row seat of just seeing some amazing things occur in your life, great milestones. And you've told your story to me a few times, but I'm catching you again, and I'd love for you to share with my friends. Tell us a little bit about, Brian, you being two things very significant in your life, I would say. Senior partner at Insurance Office of America. I think it is either the 6th or the 7th largest insurance broker, 3rd largest insurance broker now. Wow.
Yeah,
you guys have grown tremendously in the United States. Senior partner, I think your office is right across the founders and his son's office, and you were there from the beginning. So how did you get into that business?
Well, first, I'm honored to be here with you, my friend. Thank you for having me. I graduated college, and I did something so unique that most people weren't doing. I got married a week after college graduation. And I'm like, wow, I got to get a job. This is serious. You're taking on some big responsibilities here. And I started in discount retail, and I found out that operating a Kmart was not my calling. So I went into the insurance industry and spent 8 years on the underwriting side up in Buffalo, New York, freezing my butt off, and realized that these insurance agents that come to these meetings with you drive nicer cars than you do. So I had my Ford Taurus, and the agents would drive their Jaguars and stuff, and I'm like, I want to do that, what you're doing, but not here in Buffalo. Mm-hmm. So we basically flew down to Orlando, where my mom lived, and started a career here in 1994 on the agency side of the insurance business, commercial insurance, and joined a firm called J. Ralph Davis, and succeeded up within the ranks there, 7 years, and then the bottom fell out. I thought I was going to retire there. I was making good money. My wife and I were happy. We had a 12-year-old son at the time, and I got into a disagreement with the CEO, and I was packing my boxes the next morning at 7 a.m.
Oh.
No book of business was being offered to me. No severance was being offered to me. Basically, you're out and you have no income. Have a nice life. My staff was shocked. My wife was crying on the phone. And a name resonated in the back of my head, John Rittenauer. He's the CEO of Insurance Office of America. He was always someone that was spoken about in fear. Like, oh my gosh, that firm is getting big. Don't ever go over there, That's a house of cards. They're not going to make it. He was my first call. And the next morning, I was hired by John at a First Watch restaurant. And I've been with IOA now 23 years.
So from a point of tragedy or, let's just say, obstacles, a new birth of your career happened.
Yes.
And you started with them at a time when they were growing pretty fast. And now, how is it that your office is across the street from John's, or across the hallway?
Well, I had a nice sized book of business that I had built up by that time. And when my clients started to follow me over to IOA, I got sued. So on top of all this, I had a lawsuit, which made it even more difficult. And so basically, 70% of my clients followed me. The other 30% did not. And that was a nice starting point for me with IOA. And the Lord has just so marvelously blessed with relationships that I've built over the years to bring in more business. So at that point, they said, your book is big enough to where you can sit across the hall from the founder.
So what would you share to, say, younger folks in our audience who are also creating businesses right now and, pursuing their careers? What are some of the secrets to your success?
When I talk to young men and women that join IOA, they're all about how many cold calls did you make when you first started? How did you go out and solicit business? I said, guys, I never made a phone call ever in my career, a cold call. Like, what? I'm like, yeah, my wife, amazing, Lori Ann, and I would do rubber chicken dinners every night. And these rubber chicken dinners were, I'm going out to some association, some not-for-profit that was having a dinner, and we were there every night, and we were gone. And I was able to see Hilgard Lamprecht that would never take my call that day. Let's say you're the CEO of some big manufacturing company. Well, you would never take my call if I were to call you, but there you were at this dinner. And I could walk over to your table and introduce myself to you and tell you a little bit about what I do. And that's how relationship building is what I tell people as to how I was able to build this business through a gifting that God gave me of just pouring into people's lives and them wanting to give back to me in that same process.
Mm-hmm. I know when I sit back and we enjoy maybe a glass of wine, and it's the back porch, you remind me that relationships. And over the years, I've absolutely grown that to believe absolutely true. They do take time, and it's probably the joy of life too. It's not to be in such a rush, but really enjoy just being with each other and giving back. I hear you basically talking a lot about adding value to another person's life first, and wait for that person then to reciprocate.
And it's the biggest thing. Like this morning, I awoke to a text that's from a friend that said, hey, I'm not the best golfer, as you know, but he says, I have 2 CEOs that are coming in to town. Would you mind entertaining them as we go and play golf together? And it's like, where'd that come from? That just came from me not wanting something from this relationship, but giving. So when you give, think of it. When someone gives to you, oh my God, you want to give back.
Yeah.
I think that's how the Lord does it with us. He gives so much to us. All I can do is open my hands and say, God, how can I give back to you for how gracious you've been to me?
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. So you talk a lot about your faith, and I know that you're a strong man of faith, and you also are the Better Man, head of the Better Man Ministries. So tell us a little bit about that. How did that all come about? I think you read a profound book.
I did.
Yeah.
I know it's one of the books you recommend, but I had already read it when you recommended it. Just recently, Hilgard, I've put the business and the faith walk together by realizing that if I never got fired, if I never went through that difficulty, those challenging nights of a lawsuit looming over you, that company would never have allowed me to start Better Man, because they were so controlling. They were so, what are your 6 appointments today? What are your 6 appointments tomorrow? Make sure you follow up. At IOA, we believe that the hardest critic that you have in your life is yourself. Mm-hmm. No one drives me more than me. And with that, the freedom was there in 2004 to start a ministry called Better Man.
And how did that come about?
Well, as you mentioned, the book, I was reading a book by Bob Buford called Halftime. I so related to this guy that owned TV stations. I don't own TV stations, but he was doing really well and successful. And I was doing okay, successful, but empty, not fulfilled. It's not about how many cars you can own and things like that. It's about the impact that you were needing to make. And I felt like at that time I wasn't making a big impact.
Sweet.
So I went to a meeting at our church, and the pastor had us pray about where we were to be in the next ministry season. Do you want to be with the youth? Do you want to be with singles? Who do you want to help? And I did not want to help men, because I've been to a men's group and it was awful. It was terrible. 3 guys in front of a VCR tape with cold pancakes. It was bad. So I said, Lord, I don't want to do that, but this is what I want to do. And I felt like he stopped me and said, don't think that way. He spoke to my heart, Hilgard, and he said, don't step off with leading men, but step up.
Oh.
And when I told my pastor that that's what I felt like I was told, he says, you have no idea how long we've been praying for someone to lead our men. So that's what we did. We started Better Man in August 28th. It was Lorianne's birthday, 2004.
I remember going to my first Better Man conference. I was pretty impressed. I believe it was still...
Who was there?
I think the first, Nick Nikovich.
Ah, yes.
But you know what impressed me? I went into, it was at Discovery's old campus, and you go to a conference, and I didn't expect that we would get breakfast. And so we were in this line towards the back, and there's this back area, and we got this wonderful wraps, egg wraps. That was fantastic. And you know, one of the people that were handing out these egg wraps and orchestrating everything, somebody said, that's Brian's wife, Lorianne.
You met Lorianne before me?
I did.
Oh my gosh.
And so I looked at that and I said, wow, here's Brian's wife serving and working
Oh my gosh.
shoulder by shoulder, and it made a great impression.
Wow.
And then the whole event was done so well. It was very, very professional. And I remember Nick challenging us. I don't know if you remember that. That was the one that was roaring like a lion. This is a man without any arms or any legs, and he is the #1 evangelist in the world at the moment.
Oh my goodness.
Isn't that
What a
how
guy.
God works? And he roars like a lion, and he makes us all roar. And I remember him saying he's challenged the group that the next time he comes to Orlando, we will be in the arena. You remember that?
I do.
Yeah, wow. That was a very, very cool event.
And we did go to an arena, the UCF arena, several years later.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about, since that event, and I can't remember the year, but how's things grown and how's things evolved with Better Man?
Wow. It's been crazy. It's been an amazing ride. And it's been some valleys too, some real challenging times, but some really amazing times. I'll start with the amazing, then I'll get to the challenging. So we wanted to get out of the church. We didn't like it to be just one church event. So we brought it out of the church and we went into the Bob Carr, and then we went over to UCF Arena, and we just really liked that. And we had plans in 2020 to go to Silver Spurs with 11,000 men. And COVID hit. And we had the distance and we couldn't do it. So we had it at a church here, and we had the distance 6 feet. But what happened that day was we were able to stream it. And it went to 43 states and 17 countries. Just through the streaming process. We were all in that mode, if you will. And so COVID was an amazing pivot for us to reach globally men in South America, in Pakistan, in all different types of countries that would never been able to come to Orlando to sit their butt in a seat in an arena. Mm-hmm. So God did an amazing thing with that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it continued to grow. And then we had Denzel Washington as a keynote speaker, and Toby Mack came and sang for us. Just craziness how that worked out. And we reached 60 countries and 19 languages and 300,000 men, and just stuff that only God can do. I'm not that smart, bro.
Yeah. I know.
You do know. He has seen me through some challenging stuff. But then when we were able to come through that, we were able to then realize that this is our new model. Small gathering and broadcast it to the world.
Yeah. Fantastic. I know I joined the board about, I think, 4 years ago. And it was exciting for us to be part of that, Yanis and I, first as a donor. And you know what matters a lot to me is a person in business launches a ministry. And as I'm partnering, I'm in business and funding ministries. And I kind of looked at you straight and I said, well, how much do you give? And I was very impressed. Because you were not in just with your mouth, you were in with your pocketbook. You were truly in with your time and your talent and your treasure. And the amount of time, significantly more than treasure, I would say. But still, I mean, you were contributing in a very, very large amount to the ministry. And, you know, that was what was really very, very attractive to me as for at least becoming a part of the board, but also just doing life together. It's when you're aligning time, talent, and treasure, and you're following the vision and the purpose that you've felt God has given you, and you're living that out, and with the ups and the downs, right? The ups and the downs.
Yeah, I didn't get into the downs yet.
Yes.
Kind of hoping you wouldn't remind me of that.
Well, it's in the downs that we learn, right?
There are some real challenging times that I went through with my wife, and you were right there with me. We were on vacation in Bordeaux, France, and I felt so bad that a lot of our time was spent with you and Yanis helping us through that process of challenging times when we had some internal core struggles in the ministry, and it was just really challenging. I was going to shut the ministry down. It was that bad, that the need was still out there to impact men and their families, but we didn't have our team put together right on the inside, and we can't help people if we don't have it together on the inside. So you and Yanis were very instrumental in helping us through that process, and now, wow, we're on the other side, and we have a brand new team. Yes. Marcos Perez is our executive director. I just left him about 20 minutes ago, and he is an amazing leader, and I'm just so excited about what the future holds. It's going to be without me leading it. I'll stay on the board, but Marcos is an amazing 43-year-old visionary that I believe will take it to places we've never done before.
I'm so excited about it. I remember seeing a chart about the amount of people who have been exposed to the event, and when we started streaming, I remember seeing a number of over 300,000 men, especially overseas, South America a lot, Europe, Africa, and just a hunger of men for fantastic content, hearing the testimonies of people that are successful in their different careers, either sports or government, mission work, business owners, just hearing their stories about them going through ups and downs in life, receiving a calling, a uniqueness in the way that God has called them to do, and then how they pursued that. Very, very exciting. So I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to some amazing results as we continue to stream that out.
I just got hit with something that I haven't thought of in a long time. As guys, you know, our wives, our girlfriends, they are easily saying things like, yeah, that's my best friend, Sally. That's my best friend, Jane. Men don't do that very often. And Hildegard has taught me to be open about that and vulnerable about that, and I'll never forget, it was at a Better Man event. I was on stage, and you were going to speak or receive an award, and I said, hey, this is my best friend, Hildegard. And it was so weird for me to say it, but it was so refreshing, because men sometimes have a real challenge to do that. But I want to encourage men out there that if you have a good friend, let them know that. Let them know how valued they are. Let them know how important they are in your life. Even though it's not macho, your buddy would appreciate it.
Amen. Amen. I certainly do. Let's talk about family for a moment. I mean, some big things happened here lately with you. I think it's hard to drive in a car without your phone pinging about 17 times with pictures coming in from grandkids. But tell us a little bit about your family and how your family has grown.
My wife, Lorianne, is the love of my life. She is on Sunday, which was 2 days ago, or 3 days ago, we were celebrating our 40th wedding anniversary.
Wow.
So, so we were together 40 years. We got married with, she was 19. I had to get it before she got smart, bro. You can't get, so come on, baby. So at 19, she said, I do. And so we've been together 40 years, and we have one child, David, who is a father recently. He's 38 years old, and he brought us the daughter that we never had. We had second child infertility. We were not able to have more children after David. So we struggled with that as a newly married couple. And so David and Andrina brought us Emma Grace. She's going to be 2 in July, and she is a joy. Literally, I can tell you what joy is. Joy is Emma Grace.
Ah, that's wonderful.
And then we have a new one. Maximus.
Maximus
joined us like 4 or 5 months ago. And Max, from that biblical movie, Gladiator.
Yes. Love the name.
Gladiator, Maximus Aurelius. So that's where David got that name from, and he's our Max. And yes, we get a lot of pictures of them every day.
Wonderful. So, hey, we talk a little bit about intentionality with family and mentoring and coaching and loving our kids, our grandkids. You're going to have great opportunities for the grandkids. But hey, have you kind of shared over the years some principles with David about living, about maybe even working with money, thinking about wealth or thinking about the future? Share a few of those thoughts.
Okay. So David is a hardworking young man. He saw the level of intensity that Lorianne and I have lived. We always want to bring others into our home as opposed to our home just being like a place that we just keep to ourselves. We always want, so when he was being raised, all of his friends hung out at our house. Lorianne is a chef, so they were getting cold Twinkies at their house. They were getting homemade brownie sundaes at our house. So for some reason, we had all the kids at our house.
Yes.
So he is an amazing relationship person. He will light up a room when he walks into it. He tried insurance. He came to IOA. After 3 years, he said, you know what? I don't bounce out of bed like you do, Dad, to do insurance. I'm going to try something different. And I respected him for that. And now David has a successful career with a company called GoDaddy, and they do a lot of the Sky Mall type products that you'll see on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. He's got screens set up in his office. So he is working with Hilton, your son, on putting together the proper financial matters and protocols. And so he's going to be hopefully way beyond me when he's my age.
He's a heck of a salesperson. He's got the personality, very similar to your personality, just a lot of fun, a lot of energy. And he gets under my skin when we play golf.
Because you're both good. Yes.
We got a good rivalry going, and we enjoy that very much. Well, I want to kind of finish our time together about finishing strong. And this is a topic that I've seen you wrestle with as you thought about your career and what you had for the future. And especially, as you mentioned, we kind of wrestled through that with Better Men, but I'm so impressed with how you thinking about it and what you've put in place as a result of the way you're thinking about finishing strong. So question one is, when somebody says finishing strong, what does that mean to Brian Buckley?
I like to sleep, okay? So finishing strong has to do, to me personally, is coming to a place in my life where I sleep really well. to where my decisions were not ones that would embarrass me in my marriage, in my business, in my relationships. You know, the flesh is always trying to move you off center. And I get weighed and swayed that through my flesh. And with finishing strong, it used to mean something different to me. It used to mean, what island am I going to be on? And how am I going to surround myself with how many cars do I want to surround myself with as I'm sitting on this island? I don't know how the cars would get on the island, but I just saw that.
Sure.
And
you're talking about the traditional retirement model where people just kind of checks out and go think about, how they can enjoy their lives. Right?
Yeah. And then I was checked on that by the Lord, that is not finishing strong. And you have taught me that as well, that finishing strong looks more like not retirement, you taught me, but refirement. And how can we take these 40, 50 years and get you ready for the 60s and 70s and beyond? And that's what got me excited, is that I'm not going to sit on a rocking chair somewhere in a few years. I'm going to see what God has for me in the next season. So finishing strong is not really finishing, it's seeing what the next chapter looks like, what the next season looks like. And I don't think it'll be with men impacting their lives as much as it is now, but I think it'll be something different, possibly with orphans. I have a big heart for orphans. And it happened when I was in Africa.
Wow.
It was when I was in Zambia. It was something that it was just so impactful to see all the needs. I wanted to take them all home, these orphans. So I'm thinking that the Lord might be up to something like that in the future.
And that's perfectly fine. And in the sense that I think you're communicating, we have seasons in our lives, and we can continue to go on with that next season. I was very impressed with the model that you have at IOA, where, you have this mentee that you have, right? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. So at IOA, we were at a national sales meeting, and they put this bell curve on the screen, and it showed that we really had a bunch of old guys and not a bunch of young men and women. And we needed to change that. But to come into a model that's 100% commission is hard for someone in their 20s. They don't have the relationships, and it's a challenge. So we established a mentor-mentee program where I took on a gentleman who was in HR named Palmer Trice. He wanted an opportunity, and I took him to lunch wanting him to not answer any of my questions the right way so that I didn't have to do this. He answered every question the right way, and I said, okay, God, you're in this. I feel to help him. So he was my mentee, and it went for 3 years, and he is doing so well now at IOA. He has 4 children, 2 adopted. He's an amazing man. So very excited about what his next season looks like. And I had to do that because at some point when I do retire from IOA, someone has to be there to buy my book, to buy my stock. I have to have someone to pass this on to. Such a great lesson that in life we need to have someone. There's such joy in seeing me again in my 20s. I was that guy. I wanted an old geezer to speak into my life to show me how he got to where he is. And that's what I've done with Palmer.
Yes, and I think you're doing that with Marcus at Betterment as well, right?
Yes, Marcos from Dallas, Texas, is a guy that is a sponge. And he didn't want to impact men like I didn't want to impact men. And God got a hold of him like he got a hold of me. And I spend probably 20 hours a week training him as to being my successor. And he's doing so well. He has a wife, Kathy, and 6 children. So he's ready for that next responsibility. But there's something about that, and I know you feel it also, that if we just take care of ourselves and it's only self-centered and we're not looking at the next, there's no joy in this. There's joy in passing it off.
Yeah, and there's a theme. So when you get to retirement age, it's not that God is done with you. He gives you another theme or another passion for what you have, and you have a natural transition. So what you're talking about is a different from the conventional retirement model that says at 65 or 66, hang your boots in and go basically focus just on yourself, and be a little bit more self-indulgent in a sense. Whereas your retirement model is different, and it is, I'm first looking up and asking the Father what He wants me to do for the rest of my time here on earth, and then aligning again time, talent, and treasure in that direction. At the same time, you have the ability to mentor others from all the things that you have learned and hand the baton over to set yourself free, in a sense, to be able to go pursue what the next chapter is. And that seems never to stop, right? We have heroes in our lives. The gentleman you talked about who wrote Halftime, Bob Buford, he kept on, spreading that message until the day he died. And so what an exciting model that we have today in finishing strong, rather than the traditional model that most people believe in. And I love the way you said it gives you joy. It seems like depositing yourself into other people is the true key that unlocks more and more joy and fulfillment in life. After a person has pursued success, like you've described in your story, you got to that mountaintop. And
lonely,
and although they are nice cars, they are just cars, right? Mm-hmm. So there's something beyond that, right? And you talked about success to significance, and to see what that looks like. And so I love that. I love that about your story, Brian. I love that about your life. It's a great honor, privilege for me, fun, just to do life with you and be able to experience that and learn from each other as we are both, pursuing that and moving that direction. So
I met a board member that is a part of Bob Buford's organization, and it didn't even end when Bob died. That board member shared with me that Bob was able to put money aside, and he's still having an impact.
Yes.
After he's dead.
Wow.
I mean, I want that. I want something to where I can continue to impact even after I've left this planet. And Bob has done that and is doing that, and he passed away several years ago.
Yes, I love that. It has a lot to do with your estate planning, as we talked a lot about that and creating the structure to make that happen. But wonderful, wonderful. Well, folks, you now have met my best friend, Brian Buckley, and it's easy for you to probably understand why he's my best friend. It's just fun to do life together. And I love what you've shared during this time here together, talking about the secrets of success that I realize in relationships. He was talking about being married for 40 years. I know that there are trying times to stay married, but boy, the momentum and the joy and the family that a person is able to build, even with all the sways and the ways, and to be able to stay on the true north and really build family, having a wonderful opportunity to build a lasting legacy, and his son and two children, and just seeing the joy that comes from their time together. So these are all phenomenal ways to use time, talent, and treasure. Find that purpose, find that calling, look upwards to be able to find that, and see how the Father has a plan for your life as well. Align the time, talent, and treasure. Align the principles of life that we read about to be able to pursue that dream. Brian and I am a part of a group called Dream Builders, and it's all about the pursuit of the dream. And it is becoming free first, that we have the ability to be able to help others and continue on that journey. So if you'd like to learn more, feel free to go to our website. It's at www.LifeWealth Group. I've written a book. You are welcome to get a free copy of this book. This is about planning to succeed with your life wealth, how to move from dream to reality. Feel free to grab a free copy, and stay tuned, because I have a lot of other wonderful guests that I will be inviting to share their unique stories with us here on our podcast series. Thank you for joining us today. And Brian, thank you, my friend, for joining us as well.
Thank you, Gilbert.